This video is brought to you in collaboration with wowhead.com. Hello everyone. When talking about the Val'kyr, we can distinguish 3 different generations. The ones that we first encountered with the Lich King, the ones connected to Odyn, revealed later but created earlier on, and now the latest announcement, the Val'kyr of the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands, an ancient and mysterious realm that predates the Titans themselves. At this point in time, all we really know is what they told us during BlizzCon and a minor preview of one of the zones. That means not a whole lot to work with, but the expansion, it is set to dive deeper into the origin of the noble Valkyrs, as well as the spirit healers that guide us back to the land of the living. It's the Bastion area, in which the forebears of the Val'kyr and the spirit healers, they seem to be hanging out. Led by the Covenant, known as the Kyrian, order and purpose, that's what they're all about. The souls that reached this destination, they had a natural calling to serve us in one way or another. But souls, they do not come purified here, they carry burdens with them. They're not quite ready yet to take on the next role. To ascend in the afterlife as a Valkyr themselves, or a spirit healer, or even other paths. That is why they spend their time here shedding those past burdens, glimpsing and reflecting on the events of their lives, both the good and the bad, and accepting themselves for who they were, who they became, how it all ended, so they can move forward in the afterlife. Meditation, reflection, understanding yourself through combat and other means. That's the most recent origin story on the Val'kyr, which I'm sure is going to be much further expanded upon as we go play through the expansion, as time and story goes on. Now these spirit healers, they're the ones who make the determination if your soul is going to pass on between the veil of life and death. A winged better, a Val'kyr, will then come to carry your soul into the Shadowlands, where it's brought before the Arbiter. Within a moment, they're the ones who decide in which one of the near infinite realms of the Shadowlands you belong. And off you go, bringing with you anima which sustains this realm. Now the events in the Shadowlands, it's going to deal with this anima being out of balance, the realm suffering quite a bit. We get to join the covenants of our choice, including this Kyrian one, to prove ourselves, to earn rewards and power. Now, I did notice that there was a really cool dark-looking Valkyr in the trailer as well. The part where they show you the Tower of Torghast, and even Sylvanas' Valkyr, they look a little bit different than they do in the mortal realm. So that's apparently the very first generation, and a lot more information still needs to be revealed. The second generation, that calls back to the story of Odyn and Helya. Once upon a time, Odyn was pissed off that his other keepers, they decided to empower proto-dragons to make them dragon aspects. After all, their parents, the Titans, they told them that he was the one left in charge. He was to be the prime designate, but, you know, whatever. He would instead make his own army to help with the defense of Azeroth. So with the aid of Helya, they took a wing of Ulduar and lifted it into the skies. From high above, he proclaimed to the Val'kyr down below that any who died a worthy death, they would find themselves brought back to his halls to become mighty Val'kyr. Only problem was that he didn't exactly have the power to bring these souls back from the Shadowlands. So it was that they performed a ritual in which the keeper was surrounded in shadow. A spirit spoke to him, asked him what he would give to peer beyond the veil of this world, and in response, Odyn sacrificed one of his eyes. The wraith, it swallowed it, and great Odyn saw. He saw the Shadowlands, and this story, this bit, it's also going to be expanded upon in the next expansion. Now from gazing into the realm beyond, the Keeper found his answer. For in life there exists death, and in death there can be life, but there are only beings of life and beings of death. My messengers must span both realms. And from peering into the Shadowlands, Odyn came up with the idea of making his own Val'kyr, an idea that did not sit well with Helya. It wasn't exactly a fun job to have, to live as a cursed phantom being. None of his Val'kyr stepped up as volunteers, so Odyn, he was ready to enforce a job on some poor soul, which did not sit well with Helya. She threatened the Keeper that if he didn't change his mind, if he didn't find some other way, she would return the Halls of Valor to Ulduar, which in turn had Odyn find his first victim. In his eyes, Helya, who he had become to see as his own adopted daughter, she'd now become a threat not only to his plans, but to the entire world of Azeroth. The Keeper, he shares his own version of what happened next. He describes it as them entering a heated battle in which Helya reached into the Shadowlands to grasp the domain's power for herself. And in return, she was sucked into that dread realm, lost forever if Odyn had not put his own life at risk and pulled her to safety. That's the version that the Keeper would have you believe, but the Chronicles, that clearly says that it was Odyn that struck out, shattered her physical form, and remade her into the first of the Val'kyr. Helya screamed, a tormented cry, which could be heard all the way into the Shadowlands. But this violent transformation, it was only the beginning. She was now bound to his will and forced to push others into the cursed way of living. Dutiful and obedient, they ferried the souls of worthy Val'kyr back to the halls of Val'kyr, where Odyn then turned them into Val'kyr. This went on for quite a while, until Helya was given an opportunity to break free from Odyn's control, lock him and his army away within the halls of Val'kyr, and seek out her own destiny. She decided to make her own domain far below the halls of Val'kyr, Helheim, bound to Azeroth's great seas, which would be the destination for Val'kyr spirits after death. But her pain and suffering, it put quite a bit of darkness in Helya's heart. Her realm, it twisted and turned into a place of nightmare and shadow. And an empire as the dead Val'kyr, it was not something you wish for your worst enemy. As those that ended up in the halls of Val'kyr, they might be rewarded and become Val'kyr. Here it was, where they were turned into the cursed Val'kyr. And as for the other Val'kyr, they were turned by Helya. Some of them, they followed her, while others, they disappeared into the Shadowlands. While a few of them, that still had a glimmer of nobility within their souls, they dedicated themselves to watching over the physical world. From within the Shadowlands, these Val'kyr would at times guide the dead back to the land of the living. This is the origin that they build up within the Chronicles, so before the Shadowlands announcement. Interested to see how these Val'kyr, how they were forced to become a Val'kyr, whereas those in the Bastion, they're actively working towards becoming one. Of course, already being dead and having lived a full life, it helps with that choice, rather than a job being forced upon you. Yet that origin story of enforcing it, it doesn't seem to be seeped into the Val'kyr culture. For them, being lifted into the halls of Val'kyr and become a Val'kyr, it's seen as a great honor. There are those working very hard to prove themselves worthy of becoming a Val'kyr. Poems are written and passed down. One of these, they describe the history of Ashildir, ancient queen of the Val'kyra. The Val'kyra, they're members of the Tidescorn clan that want to become Val'kyr. They're watched over in battle by Aegir, a Titan Watcher that seemingly took over from Helya, and got us to the Shield Maidens, who has the power to turn them into Val'kyr. But only after they've gone through several trials and rituals to receive this blessing, as they call it. You might also notice that there's a difference in color for the Val'kyr. Gold or a more necromantic blue. The Golden or the Sunborn Val'kyr. They're only considered Sunborn when they're honored in the presence of Odyn. You also have Unborn Val'kyr. Both of them, they're battle pets. The Unborn ones, they've not vanquished a creature of high nobility. The more you know from the pet journal.
Through great deeds of courage and valor, Persia has earned this most sacred of rites. She shall ascend as one of my chosen Val'kyr, and her name shall echo in these gilded halls for all eternity.
Are you nervous, Persia? It is understandable if...
I am not nervous, only excited. All my life has led to this one glorious moment.
Spoken like a true Val'kyr.
And then the so-called third generation and our first explanation to the existence of Val'kyr. That comes from the Lich King. Far before the Chronicles, and naturally the Shadowlands announcements, we were told that these Val'kyr, they were either creations of the Lich King himself, or they were originally Val'kyr that he submitted to his will, bound to him without a choice. And now we know that it's a little bit of both. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. Inspired by Odin's Val'kyr, the Lich King, he set out to create his own. It proved to be quite a difficult task, even for such a powerful being, but after a couple of missteps, he finally succeeded. The Val'kyr greatly enhanced his ability to control the dark powers of undeath. This is one of the first things that unlucky new Death Knights they encounter in their starting zone, as the Val'kyrs are watching over them. They're making sure that the Lich King's brand new creations, that they don't immediately perish in their starting area. They're also utilized by the Lich King as a very mighty force. You might remember fighting against two extremely powerful ones during the trial of the Crusader. Fiola Lightbane and Aedis Darkbane, they're known as the Twin Val'kyr, sent over to the tournament grounds to mess things up. Terrorize and disturb the poor people on the grounds. Archer-Confessor Piltress, she manages to entrap them for the good of all. To which they're then pitched against us in the trial of the Crusader, to prove ourselves worthy to assault Icecrown itself. It seems like we just can't seem to shake this whole prove yourself thing when talking about the Val'kyr. There were also great threats during the Lich King encounter, where the Val'kyr, they would just pick you up and slowly carry you off to a certain demise, praying that your raid team could focus long enough to damage them, otherwise it was simply game over. But not just the Val'kyr were copied from Odyn, or to be completely fair, they copied pieces of the Lich King story and then applied them to Odyn. Either way, the whole reward system, it was also offered to the Val'kyr Northrends, now allied to a death god. Those that were found worthy, they did not become Val'kyr. Instead, the Val'kyr turned them into Jim'Hadar, elite warriors amongst the Lich King's ranks. The unworthy, or unlucky ones, they did not become Kvaldir. Instead, the Val'kyr cursed them into Varkul. And once more, their culture accepted this as a great honor, something to live and to die for. At Jotunheim, they even hold a tournament to prove yourself worthy. And whereas in Stormheim, we had the Valkyra pursuing their life goal of becoming a Valkyr for Odyn, in Northrend, it's the Valkyrion that want to prove themselves and become Valkyr for the Lich King. Seeing this trend, you'd almost predict another repeat for Bastion, but let's hope that they got something more original in mind, considering that this zone is going to dive into the Forebearers, the very origin of the Valkyr. Can't wait to see what they got planned.
My liege, I have done as you asked, and now beseech you for your blessing.
Your sacrifice is a testament to your obedience. Indeed, you are worthy of this charge. Arise, and forever be known as Svala Sorrowgrave.
The sensation is beyond my imagining. I am yours to command, my king.
But not all of the Lich King's Valkyr were so happy about it as Svala was. When Arthas was defeated and Bolvar picked up the crown, Sylvanas then made her way to the top of Icecrown to check things out for herself. After so many years, she finally claimed her vengeance of what Arthas had done to her and her people. The Banshee Queen, she was ready for that sweet embrace of the afterlife that she'd felt once before. A sea of comforts, physical sensations replaced by the purity of emotion. She could grasp bliss, see joy, hear peace. That was the afterlife. That was her destiny, the eternal sea in which she found herself after she fell defending Silvermoon.
Finish it. I deserve a clean death.
After all you've put me through, woman, the last thing I'll give you is the peace of death.
No, you wouldn't dare.
That was moments before Arthas ripped her spirit away. The pain so intense that it left her soul forever torn. But she was done now. She saw no reason to continue on this cursed life, despite the 9 Valkyr that were floating around her, floating around the platform, showing her visions of her life. She just wanted to be done with it, so she decided to jump from the top of Icecrown onto the Serenite spikes down below. This time, however, her afterlife, it wasn't as peaceful as she remembered it. The realm that she ended up in this time was a realm of eternal torment. Even Arthas was there. His essence rushed to her, desperate, then shrank away in horrified recognition. The boy who would be Lich King, just a scared little blonde child, reaping the aftermath of a lifetime of mistakes. If any part of Sylvanas' soul were not at that moment torn and tormented, she might have even felt, for the first time, the slightest glimmer of pity for him. In the grand landscape of all the world's suffering and all the evils of the infinite, the Lich King was insignificant. Sylvanas ended up in pretty much what we would call hell, or after the details given with the Shadowlands presentation, she most likely ended up at the Maw. This is where the Arbiter sends the most tainted, most irredeemable souls for punishment, or for the protection of the Shadowlands from what they bring with them. I personally always wondered why Sylvanas ended up in this place. Back then, there was a lot of speculation that perhaps Yogg-Saron, self-proclaimed god of death, that he might have something to do with it. Don't forget that she killed herself by landing on the Serenite spikes down below. Serenite being the blood of the old god. This realm, it might not have even been real to begin with. But now it seems like it's definitely a thing. So perhaps it was her actions in trying to claim vengeance that tainted her soul in such a way that a peaceful life, it was no longer for her. Or perhaps all souls tainted, like Death Knights or Banshees or, name it, they're just doomed to go to the Maw because they're no longer pure. This might put a nice spin on Sylvanas threatening Saurfang with saying hello to his son again.
Or perhaps you will have a chance to say hello to your son.
Or perhaps the ruler of this place, going by the name of the jailer. Perhaps they had something to do with drawing her soul in. Those are reasons still left to be explained. But what we do know is that the Val'kyr that were hovering around her on the platform, they showed up and offered her a deal. Anahel the Caller and her sister battle maidens. They apparently did not choose to serve the Lich King. And now, with Bolvar sitting on the throne, not completely in full control of his powers, they want to be released from his control. Bind their souls to Sylvanas instead, to give her freedom, life, and power over death. They would take her place here in the Maw, as Anahel did right now, in case she ever end up here again. The Val'kyr at their side, they're her bonus lives, and also offer the power to increase their bulwark against the infinite, raise more Forsaken to join their ranks. The undead, they can't reproduce after all. Powers that even War Chief Garrosh, he had his doubts about.
Have you given any thought to what this means, Sylvanas? What difference is there between you and the Lich King now?
Isn't it obvious, War Chief? I serve the Horde. You are all nothing!
Watch your clever mouth, bitch!
Funny enough, for some reason, the Worgen Curse, it makes it impossible for the Val'kyr to bring the Fallen back to life. We see this play out in Silverpine Forest, where Sylvanas is hitting the humans' hearts, and the only choice is to either drink Crowley's blood and become a Worgen like him, immune to the depravity of the Forsaken, or to be raised as a servant of the Forsaken. Honestly, they'd rather die than be turned into a Worgen, but seeing as how even death provides no relief when dealing with the Lich Queen, Sylvanas, of course, they embrace the Worgen Curse. They drink the blood, choose vengeance, and Agatha has no choice but to retreat. I wonder, since seeing how the Worgen Curse has its roots with the wild god Goldrin, but also with Elune, and considering how Elune apparently has a part to play in the future, I wonder if they'll explain more as to why becoming a Worgen, it apparently makes you immune to being raised by a Val'kyr. Not so much being raised by other means, mind you, but apparently enough immunity to put a Val'kyr on the run. Really curious. Hopefully the next expansion is going to reveal more. But back to the 9, those that entered a deal with Sylvanas, with Anahel taking her place. From the original 9, there were 8 left. 8 of those that came back with her. The resurrected Godfrey then shot Sylvanas point blank, to which we saw Agatha, Dashla and Arfura. They sacrificed themselves to bring her back again, leaving her with 5. In Anderhal, she lost Aratni to the Alliance forces during the battle for Anderhal, leaving her with 4. During the Darkshore campaign, which Tyrande, she embraced the dark side of the moon, she lost Brynja, which means that 3 Val'kyr at this point in time, they remain of the Pact. Kira, who most recently joined Lillian in resurrecting Zelling. Signe, who was there in Darkshore when Brynja died, and an unnamed 3rd Val'kyr. Now that doesn't mean that she only has these Val'kyr at her side. These just seem to be the most powerful ones. A good example would be on the Broken Shore. The moment in which the Alliance and Hordes seemingly worked together in stopping the Legion's invasion. In it, we saw the Horde quickly overwhelmed, and they had to call the retreat. Sylvanas summons her Val'kyr for a quick pickup. 5 of them are seen flying in the sky, and by that point, she has 4 of the bargain remaining. The same can then be applied to the final shot of the Shadowlands announcement cinematic. By that time, she has 3 of the bargain left, while 4 are shown on screen. That's not to say though that she hasn't tried to add more Val'kyr to her ranks, but it's not certain that any new Val'kyr will hold the same power, could enter the same bargain as these 9 did. Regardless, more Val'kyr, it does mean more power for Sylvanas. More power to resurrect more troops. Once she even had a Val'kyr join him in a ritual to empower Nephanos' body. More Val'kyr is definitely a good thing to have for the Banshee Queen, and to accomplish this, she entered a bargain with none other than Helya.
Remember our bargain, Banshee. Do not dare cross me.
The details of this bargain, they have not been fully explained. Something that might still very well play a part in the next expansion. All we really do know is that she got a lantern from Helya, a soul cage, which gave her the power to do this.
Treacherous Banshee! You know not what you are meddling with!
Submit. The Val'kyr are mine.
She tried to make Aegir submit and claim the power of the Val'kyr as her own. But Gen Greymane, he showed up just in time to stop the ritual, and he prevented these plans. That does leave the question as to what Helya wanted out of this deal, and how that relates to what we know about Sylvanas now. In the past, her Legion story description, it had her fate edged closer to the abyss. Sylvanas must decide how far she'll go to protect her people. and whether they're more precious to her than her soul. Now it's been revealed that she's been in league with the jailer ever since she killed herself. With the Val'kyr at her side, she's been sending souls to the Maw, which in turn empowered her enough to eventually abandon the Horde altogether. Enough power to take on Bolvar in a one-on-one and rip the Helm of Domination apart. A massive rift between Azeroth and the Shadowlands, it's now been opened, and that's just about as much detail as we have on the story right now, meaning that there's a whole lot of questions left to be answered. We know that a big part of her motivation, ever since that fateful day at the top of Icecrown, that's all been about staying out of hell, avoiding that realm of eternal damnation, building up a bulwark against the infinite. So what is her relation to the jailer? They've said that she's not enslaved or anything, so if you're looking to avoid being tortured for the rest of your afterlife, a way would be to never die again, to just stay alive. Or another way, that would become the ruler of the Maw yourself. Or maybe even the Shadowlands entirely. Master Death, the jailer jailed, under the control of the Banshee Queen. Maybe, but then I do wonder if these Val'kyr, if they're aware of this ultimate plan, seeing how they took her place in the Maw. Were they always aware that the day would come in which Sylvanas could set them free? Who knows? Interesting stuff to be certain, and I can't wait for the next expansion to see what goes down. See more details about the afterlife. A mysterious realm predating the Titans with infinite cameo possibilities, infinite zones to explore. Will we see a repeat of the Prove Yourself storyline, or will something new be created? Perhaps explain the origin of the Shadowlands and the Val'kyr. Who knows? Let's just be thankful that there are spirits out there noble enough to act as spirit healers and guides to the afterlife. Who knows how many of our adventures we missed out on without them. But for now, you're up to speed on the story of the Val'kyr as we know it so far. If you want more details on the things that we talked about today, be it the Val'kyr, be it Shadowlands coverage, a link to the WoW article is in the description down below. As always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!